let's swap this.
K-swap that.
There's gotta be a better way. What about some different engine swaps? The times they are a-changing, and there are a bunch of really exciting engine swap options for your old ass car that we're gonna talk about right now.
Welcome to Donut.
First engine we're gonna talk about was underrated for a very long time because it was overshadowed by its big brother. You could say it's the Donnie Wahlberg of engines.
Who's this man?
He had some great roles.
Listen, I know Mark Wahlberg.
Okay. Of course, we can only be talking about the 2.3 Ford EcoBoost. This is a turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that Ford has put in darn near everything, from the Explorer to the Bronco to the Ranger, even the Mustang. It's been in production for nearly 10 years, and it's known for being super reliable, which pretty important. What's even more important, if you're a little cretin like me, is that it makes 330 horsepower and 350 foot-pounds of torque from the factory. Those are some pretty good numbers, so why was it overshadowed? Well, it's because fragile V8 fans like myself, people like me, couldn't bear to see Ford put a 4-banger on a Mustang, and people like me with my 4.6 V8 would get smoked off the line by a new EcoBoost, and that's the truth.
Damn.
The reality is you don't need a 5-liter V8 to have a good time.
That's a hard pill to swallow.
I know. But these EcoBoost engines can handle 400 horsepower with stock internals and a few bolt-ons. And since we're talking about swaps here, this is a pretty compact 4-cylinder that can fit in a lot of applications. Like this guy who put one in his 84 Volvo 240. This guy, you know, he found a salvaged EcoBoost, yoinked it out. Yeah, yoinked it. Look, you got the transmission, he pulled that as well.
You were saying an EcoBoost on a big muscle power. It's kind of gross, but an EcoBoost in this.
Makes sense, right? So this is just a cool, interesting option. There are a lot of off-the-shelf kits ready to swap these engines into older Mustangs and even S14s. Something like a more vintage motor like your SR20, that's more specialized. That's probably gonna come with a higher price tag, whereas something like this, a little cheaper. And as such, you can find these motors for somewhere between $2,000 and $3,000 pretty regularly because there are so many of them out in the scrapyard, waiting for you to pick it up. Steph, there's a ton more engines we're gonna talk about today. Starting with this.
The BMW N52. Now, this is a 6-cylinder BMW engine produced from 2004 to 2015, just like 2.5 Men, my favorite show.
That's your favorite show?
I know, listen, hard to believe. Very specific taste. It is definitely my favorite show. Yes.
All right, you've sold me on 2.5 Men, but tell me more about this N52.
All right, we're talking 250 wheel horsepower. It's also made from an aluminum magnesium composite, making it super light compared to other 6-cylinder options, which is great. And there's a large aftermarket support for these that are offering tunes, intake modifications, exhaust, and even supercharger kits. After BMW phased out the N52 in 2015, when 2.5 Men was canceled, they replaced it with a turbocharged inline 4, marking the N52 as the last naturally aspirated 6-cylinder engine that BMW ever sold in the US. Wow. And even though this is a modern BMW engine, which are notoriously regarded as nightmares to work on, it's actually pretty good.
A reason for like it being a little easier, 2004 to 2015, you know, kind of in that sweet spot of early 2000s. It's getting a little more complicated, there's more sensors and stuff, but it's not over the top yet.
Absolutely. But the reason we're even talking about this engine is ultimately the availability. You can find them everywhere, dude. Go to your local junkyard. Count how many of these 15-year-old BMWs you can find, and I promise you, there's a ton. This engine was offered in nearly every BMW model. The 1 Series, the 3 Series, the 5, 6, and 7. That's already too high for me to count. Even the SUV models got this engine, dude. Wow. I'm talking literally BMW threw this engine everywhere they could. They were Oprah in that.
And also like 250 horsepower at the wheels, that's good enough for a lot of vintage cars, I would say. Like things that used to have like a straight 6 carbureted engine that you just don't want to deal with because carburetors are scary magic. I could totally see you putting one of these in there. Dude, what if you had like an MGB with one of these things? A Dodge Dart Swinger with one of these in there? That'd be interesting.
Guys, if someone doesn't build these things after Nolan has given you the ideas, he's gonna go ahead and patent them, and then you never can.
That's right, that's right.
So modification-wise, they're great cars. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10.
I love it.
Today's sponsor, Nissan, invited us in Nashville to check out the all-new Nissan Kicks. But we don't want to give it back.
So we're getting out of the city so we can enjoy the great outdoors.
I'm driving this time.
And I'll find us a swimming hole.
The 2025 Kicks is great for road trips and day trips. It has tons of room for all your gear or friends, and it comes with standard Safety Shield 360 technologies to help keep everyone and everything safe. Plus, as the first Kicks with intelligent all-wheel drive, it can easily drive in rain, snow, or shine.
With intelligent around view monitor, you get a bird's eye view so you don't hit stuff. Please return the kicks immediately. We really, really, really need the car back ASAP. Nah, I'm going swimming. All right.
If you're looking for a comfortable road trip car to get both around and out of the city, then check out the all-new Nissan Kicks. To learn more, click the link below.
Target acquired.
All right, this next engine is from General Motors, but it's not an LS, but an LFX 3.6 liter V6. By the way, FX got the movies, but they also had 2.5 men on all the time.
You guys see what's going on here?
So, a V6 engine is a little bit of the best of both worlds, okay, when it comes to balancing performance with size. It's small enough to fit in most cars, but can provide more power than a little baby four-banger, all right? And the LFX is one of the best V6 options out there right now. So this little munchkin debuted in 2012 when the world was about to end and was featured in a bunch of GM vehicles like Cadillacs, trucks, and even the Camaro. But like the EcoBoost, this was an overshadowed engine for a long time, but it makes a lot of sense for you swapaholics out there. The most powerful version of the LFX is the one from the Camaro. It makes 323 horsepower.
Wow, that's a good amount.
I know, right?
That's pretty fat, not gonna lie, yeah.
And in a big, fat, greasy Camaro, that might not be a lot of power. Those things are pretty heavy, but it sure is if you slap it into something a little bit smaller like a Miata. In fact, there's already a company making a kit to cram these engines into NA, NB, NC, and ND Miatas, and even the RX-8, which, according to our friend Aaron Parker, is the best handling car he's ever driven. So,
Wow.
check it out.
That's pretty rad.
Yeah. So these engines have variable valve timing. It's got a forged crank though. It can also run E85 flex fuel, which is cool if you like smelling corn and going slightly faster because you don't have a turbo installed on it yet. Here's a dude right here who LFX swapped his Miata and put down a time of 7:33.8 at the Nürburgring.
Damn.
That's as fast as a Koenigsegg CCX, and that's a car that costs $2 million. All right, so this thing's pretty sick. Wide body on there.
Ripping that track up for sure. Look at that thing, damn.
Honestly, for a V6, it sounds pretty good.
It sounds really good. Listen, you see any Miata pulling up sounding anything similar to this, you're kind of already like, wow.
Yeah, giving it a side eye, like, what's going on? Dude, this thing is hauling ass. Or as the Zoomers say, hauling get! LFX V6, only costing around $500, maybe $1,000, and you do the math and tell me if that's not worth it.
All right, next we've got a very specific engine swap. If you don't own a 986 generation Porsche Boxster or a 996 generation 911, you're about to get some serious FOMO, Pez. The fear of missing out on P-car engine swaps.
Nice.
That's what that means.
That's good.
I know, thank you, I created that. Step 1, buy a non-running Boxster or 911.
Okay.
Step 2, rip out the blown flat 6 engine,
Okay.
as you do. Step 3, insert a twin turbo 2.7 liter V6 from an Audi. Right, it gets interesting, hold up. Step 4, now you own a 911 turbo for a fraction of the price of the real one. I know, exactly. That's what everyone else is thinking right now. I know their minds are blown. Now, if you're wondering why you'd want to use an Audi engine in a Porsche, well, these engines share the same bell housing pattern. But the real beauty of this swap comes from how unreliable the original Porsche engines are. This generation of cars has an IMS bearing issue that can grenade the stock engine if left unfixed. If that happens, you're looking at a ton of money to rebuild or replace the stock engine. So, for that reason, a company called Ren27 developed a swap kit for Audi engines that ends up being cheaper than a stock engine replacement and can double the stock horsepower.
Okay.
But they're really reliable cars. They're great to work on. They're not that bad.
Steph, you keep mentioning that you worked on Volkswagen, Audi, Porsche. What'd you do before you worked there?
I was actually an Audi technician. The 2.7T engine used in this swap originally came from the Audi S4 and A6 from the early 2000s. It makes 250 horsepower stock, but can easily be upgraded. I'm talking bigger turbos, intercoolers, better fueling, tunes, intakes, downpipes. It has a beef iron block on top of that can handle around 450 horsepower and over 600 horsepower with upgraded rods.
That's a lot.
I know.
600 is a lot.
It's a great bang for your buck.
Yeah.
So without further ado, here's the car.
Sounds good. I think sounds sick.
You put a nice exhaust on thing, it's gonna purr real nice.
I gotta say, I like the sound of a good V6. Like they do have like a unique charm to them. Dude, I'm looking at some used ones right here, 1,500 bucks for one of these things, for just like a used 27T. That's cool, I like that. Thanks for opening my eyes to the 27T. So speaking of Audi engines, the next one we're gonna mention here is the 07K. It's a 2.5 liter, 5-cylinder engine made by Volkswagen Auto Group. This thing right here is basically the German K swap. This thing came in the Audi TT, as well as some various Volkswagens like the Jetta, Passat, and Rabbit. And just like how you can find the K-series engines in tons of sensible cars, the same goes for the 07K. They make some plentiful. And it's a pretty unassuming engine on paper, but it makes a lot of sense for swaps in smaller cars. So the 07K makes around 170 horsepower in stock form, but it's incredibly robust. People say that these things are good for 300,000 miles without major maintenance. That's insane. I don't know.
That's car abuse.
But that doesn't mean that these things can't be turned up a few notches. There are off-the-shelf tunes that will help get power over 200 horsepower, pretty decent. But what's more interesting is these things are extremely turboable motors. You might remember that James had a turbocharged 07K in his Golf, which made 327 horsepower to the wheels. Like most modern engines on this list, we're still, I think, in the early stages of people adopting this as a common swap, but several companies have already developed kits to put these not only in older Volkswagens, but other cars like Porsche 944s. That'd be a good one.
I love them.
Yeah, you worked on those too?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
That's a perfect way to describe them, as the K swap of the Volkswagen world.
All right, we have just a few more engines left to cover, but I want to talk about the elephant in the room, the LSX sitting right there. So there's no question that the LS is still the king of engine swaps. Everybody's done it. GM made like 100 million of these things, and you can find them in junkyards all across America. The engine that we swapped into low Z was an LQ9 from a Escalade. We have an LS3 in high Z. GM also manufactures new crate engines that can make insane amounts of powers, like this LSX right here. It's the same engine that we have in our Baja Blaster. Now, I only mention this because I want to shout out it's super affordable, plentiful, powerful, and reliable. There are swap kits to put LSs into everything from E30s to 350Zs to Model Ts to probably Model Ys. There's an entire festival even called LS Fest that celebrates this beloved engine, which, I mean, it's just tried and true, which leads me to an important point. This guy was not our first choice for the Ranger. When we put together the plan for the Ranger about a year ago, we wanted to build it into our own version of like a Ranger Raptor. We wanted to put a Coyote in it. But the problem is, Steph, it's not really that common of a swap yet. So there are a few people who have figured out how to get an LS to work in a Ranger application like ours, but the custom fabrication and wiring to get it to work reliably would have been super risky. We wanted to follow a roadmap that others have already done before us that's tried and true, like a proven formula. Because we're new at this, it would have been a nightmare to troubleshoot engine issues in such a short time frame. And after talking to a bunch of experts, we landed on the LSX, and at the end of the day, it makes the same kind of power that we're looking for. The point of all this is like, I want to shout out the bravery of all you sickos out there who refuse to go with the tried and true engine swap. So thank you very much, you pioneering swap freaks. Like that, I want to say that EcoBoost Volvo.
Oh, he's a swap freak,
Yeah,
for sure.
For sure.
And with that, let's talk about one of the most exciting engine swaps that I think you're gonna start seeing a lot more of in the coming years. It's another GM engine, but it only has half the cylinders of an LS.
Oh, 4.
Yeah, it's the inline Ford Ecotech. If the 07K is the German K swap, then this is the American one. It's been probably in like millions of cars since the late 90s, and over the decades, they've come out with tons of different variants for this. One to look out for is the LK9, a turbocharged 2-liter that was mainly found in the Saab 9.3. It made around 220 horsepower from the factory thanks to a forged steel crankshaft, strengthened connecting rods, and good cooling and oiling. These engines can crank out
350 to the wheels.
Then you've got the LSJ, a supercharged version that came in the Cobalt SS and Saturn Ion Redline. There are people that have made over 400 horsepower on stock internals, but with upgraded bottom ends, there are people that have made up to 900.
Wow.
Insane. Maybe even as crazy as this guy, Ryan Graham. Let's go ahead and watch his video. Let's see how crazy he gets.
There's no video.
It says watch video.
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. Building up that boost.
Look at him go.
Oh my God.
He went off.
The engines are out there. They're not super cheap, like $2,500 to $3,500 for like a supercharged one. Dude, freaking Pontiac Grand Prix with one of those? That's a sleeper.
That'd be wicked.
Here's a comment on this video. Did anyone else's pee-pee twitch when they saw the stacks pouring out of the wheel wells?
There are plenty of other good versions to look out for, but you get the point, all right? They're available, they're there, or you can pull them out of a wrecked car, or you could just buy a crate engine. These Ecotech engines are already popular swap options for a bunch of cars, from Miatas to Volkswagens to Jeeps, and to this thing.
Hell yeah, brother. Whoa,
That's fucking wicked. This is too wicked. Supercharged, and he's spraying. Oh my God.
Yeah, you know, I think the key for like a successful engine swap, or not successful, not in a literal sense, but like, I would say like, don't be ashamed of the car that it came out of. Like, yeah, it doesn't matter what the car that came in. What matters is the power that goes to the ground, right? That's it.
That is true.
That's it. So get creative with it. And finally, there's one more engine swap that just delights me in the most disgusting way. In fact, I'm certain now that we made the wrong choice with putting an LS into our Ford Ranger. What we should have done is exactly what Airborne Entertainment did.
No way.
What do we build?
That is some, this is some Midwest activities right here.
Oh my God.
Look at that, they got, okay, sorry, look. They got the water tank in the back and it's spraying, it's pumping. That's how these engines cool, is it has to have water pumped through it at all times. And it's spraying out the front.
What the hell?
That's sick.
That's insane.
All right, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you came away with some ideas. I don't know, got the gears turning in your head. Hit that subscribe button, follow Steph at Radical Steph. Follow me at Nolan J. Sykes. Yeah, see ya. See you later.
Bye.
Bye.